My parents always took my sister's side, even when her made-up illness derailed my college plans and forced me to live in the garage. But when we finally went to court, the evidence against her was overwhelming. This whole mess started when Melissa came home from college after being diagnosed with ADHD. Suddenly, everything seemed to bother her. My footsteps, for instance, were a distraction during her online classes. I tried to be funny and wore these ridiculous foam slippers that made me look like a cartoon bear. Problem solved, right? Nope. Next, she complained to Mom that the vibrations from my walking were scrambling her brain, even with the slippers on. She even showed Mom articles about ADHD sensory processing. Mom completely bought into it. She spent $200 on special carpet runners and insisted I only walk on those designated paths through the house, like I was some animal in a zoo. I really tried to make it work. I took tiny baby steps everywhere, arms out for balance, as if I were on a tightrope. My friends thought I'd lost my mind watching me tiptoe to the front door. My boyfriend even broke up with me, saying I was acting weird. But, of course, nothing was ever good enough for Melissa. She then created an actual laminated schedule for when I was allowed to walk around my own house. Not during my focus blocks, she'd say, as if it were the most reasonable thing. Her focus blocks ran from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I had to text her for permission to leave my room, literally text my sister to ask if I could pee. She started documenting everything in a binder. Times I walked without permission, decibel levels from an app. She'd record me walking and play it back to our parents as proof of my hostility. The final straw came when she claimed my midnight trip to get water caused her to fail an exam. She insisted the vibrations traveled through the floor and into her desk, making her forget everything she'd studied. My parents lost it. Dad installed motion sensors. Mom moved my bed into the garage. The garage. It's more private out here, Mom said. You can walk around all you want. She even got me a space heater, which somehow made sleeping next to gas cans acceptable. But even that wasn't enough for Melissa. She had a full-blown meltdown, rocking back and forth on the floor, tears streaming, repeating, "I can feel her hostile energy through the walls. I can't concentrate knowing she's on the property." My parents then held a family meeting and told me I needed to stay with relatives until Melissa finished her semester. "She's abusing her little sister," they told everyone. "It's clear she's trying to sabotage her education." That very night, they dropped me off at my aunt's house with 2 trash bags full of clothes. They wouldn't even let me pack properly. They just wanted me gone. My aunt soundproofed the guest room and gave me special slippers. My uncle handed me a business card for anger management. They kept their kids away from me as if I were a monster. 3 days later, I was on my aunt's laptop researching ADHD accommodations when I noticed her email was open. I saw a receipt for Melissa's tuition payment, but something felt wrong. The amount wasn't what it should have been. My heart started racing. The next morning, I called the college, pretending to be Melissa, and asked for enrollment verification for insurance. The lady said, "I'm seeing you haven't been enrolled since spring 2023. You were academically dismissed." My heart stopped. 18 months. She hadn't been in school for 18 months. I dug deeper. I called a friend whose brother attended the same state university and asked him if Melissa was in any of his classes. He just laughed. "Your sister? She got kicked out freshman year for plagiarism. Everyone knows that." I sat there shaking as everything clicked. My aunt walked in and saw my face. "What's wrong?" I showed her everything. The call to the enrollment office, my friend's texts, and a timeline of Melissa's symptoms. My aunt immediately called my parents. "Put it on speaker," I urged. "When's the last time you actually saw Melissa's grades?" There was silence. I could hear my mom's worried sounds as she tried to log into the parent portal. "Melissa changed the password 2 years ago," Mom said. "It didn't work." Dad called the bursar's office. $60,000 in tuition payments for nothing. She'd been pocketing all of it. Turns out, she just wanted me gone so I wouldn't question why she was always home. And when they confronted her, she tried everything. This is Opie's fault. She tried to overstimulate me and drive me insane on purpose. But this time, no one believed her. My parents spammed my phone, begging me to come home, but I ignored them. Good riddance. The next day, when I went to check my student portal to register for spring classes, I saw it. Withdrawal requested by student. I frantically called the registrar. "Yes, you submitted the withdrawal form yesterday at 11:47 p.m. I knew it was Melissa. When I hung up, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Melissa had withdrawn me from college. My own sister had accessed my account and destroyed my education while I was at my aunt's house. I immediately called school security, my voice trembling as I explained that someone had accessed my student account without authorization. The guy on the other end sounded bored. "Ma'am, that's a registrar issue. They're open at 8 a.m. tomorrow. But this is identity theft. Someone removed me from school. Still need to go through the registrar. Nothing we can do tonight." I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I opened my laptop and started taking pictures of everything. The withdrawal confirmation email, the 11:47 p.m. timestamp, and the IP address shown at the bottom of the site. My aunt had encouraged me to capture everything, and now I understood why. The IP address looked familiar. I matched it to an older email from my parents' computer. The same numbers. The withdrawal was submitted from my parents' home while I was 20 miles away at my aunt's house. By 11 p.m., I still couldn't sleep. My thoughts raced about what else Melissa could have done. I logged into my email settings, something I'd never thought to check before. There it was, a forwarding rule. For the past 4 months, every email from my college was automatically sent to an address I didn't recognize. My stomach churned as I looked through my sent folder and found emails I'd never written. Responses to teachers saying I was dropping their classes, replies turning down scholarship opportunities, even a note declining a paid research position I'd applied for the previous semester. I found the original emails in my trash folder. My instructors asking why I'd missed weeks of lectures, the financial aid office informing me about my enrollment status, and an invitation to join the honor society that I had supposedly denied. Each one was forwarded to Melissa before I ever saw it. My alarm didn't need to go off the next morning. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., organizing every piece of evidence into folders on my laptop. My aunt drove me to the university and insisted on coming in as my witness. When the registrar's office opened at 8 a.m., there was already a line, but I was first. As I explained everything to the woman behind the desk and showed her the screenshots and IP address confirmation, she seemed sympathetic. "I understand this is upsetting," she said, typing something into her computer. "But to reverse a student-initiated withdrawal, we need a police report for identity theft. Plus, your department head has to approve your readmission, and you need to complete any missed coursework. How long do I have?" She looked at her screen. 2 hours before your spot in the program is permanently released. After that, you'd have to reapply as a new student. A total of 72 hours. 3 days to save 4 years of education. My aunt drove directly to the police station. The officer taking my report frowned as I told him about Melissa, the fake ADHD, the stolen tuition money, and now the withdrawal. "Family situations are complicated," he said, not really looking at me. "This could be seen as a domestic dispute rather than identity theft. Sisters share passwords sometimes. She never had mine. She must have reset it or hacked it somehow." He gave me a report number, but warned that it could take weeks before a detective was assigned. I didn't have weeks. By 2 p.m., I was sitting across from my department head. She had always liked me, but her expression was serious when she pulled up my data. "You've missed significant coursework," she said. "These emails saying you were dropping classes, the missed assignments. I can see you're a victim here, but you're looking at 4 months of work. I can do it. I just need the chance." She gave me a long look. "If you can prove you were prevented from attending, truly prove it, and complete all missed assignments within 2 weeks, I'll approve your readmission." 2 weeks for 4 months of work was better than nothing. That evening, my aunt and I gathered at her kitchen table and created a timeline, including every incident with Melissa, every text message about the foam slippers, and every photo of the carpet runners my mother had installed. My aunt had even kept the receipt for the soundproofing she'd installed in my room. "This is abuse," she explained quietly. "Clear, documented abuse." She picked up the phone. "I'm calling my friend. She's a lawyer." As my aunt made calls, I remembered something. I'd been texting Elise about everything. She'd witnessed it all in real time. Elise answered on the first ring. "Oh my God, I've been worried sick. Your parents called my mom and said you'd gone insane and attacked Melissa. Elise, I need your help. Do you still have our text conversations?" "Every single one." "Why?" I explained everything. The fake ADHD, the stolen money, the withdrawal from school. Elise was silent for a long time. "I'm driving down tomorrow," she finally said. "And I'm bringing my laptop. It was strange how easily everyone accepted Melissa's complaints about footsteps scrambling her brain. I found it odd that my parents never questioned such an outrageous claim or asked for actual medical documentation beyond a few articles. I screenshotted Melissa's Instagram stories, the ones where she was at parties during her alleged sensory crisis. The lawyer arrived the next morning. She examined everything with sharp eyes, occasionally asking questions. "We have a strong case for fraud," she told us. "But I also need documentation of the emotional abuse, the garage, the walking restrictions, everything." Elise arrived that afternoon, with a thick packet of printed texts and screenshots. She also had her witness statement prepared and notarized. The Instagram evidence was damning. Melissa was at a concert the same night she claimed my footsteps caused her a migraine. Melissa was at a house party 2 hours after stating she needed perfect silence for studying. That evening, I decided to do a more thorough review of our family's finances. If Melissa stole tuition money, what else did she do? I requested my credit report for the first time in my life. I had never opened 3 credit cards before. $15,000 in debt. All opened within the last year using my social security number. My palms shook when I dialed the police station again. This time, they quickly connected me to a detective. "Credit card fraud changes things," the detective explained. "This is now a felony case. We'll be arresting your sister tomorrow." My aunt changed her locks that night and added cameras the following morning. "I know Melissa," she admitted. "This won't end quietly." She was right. My parents called the next afternoon, both shouting over the speakerphone. "You're destroying your sister's life." Mom wailed. "How could you do this to family? She stole $60,000 and opened credit cards in my name." "We'll pay for your college," Dad exclaimed. "Every penny, just drop the charges." My aunt grabbed my phone and started recording before I could react. "So, you're trying to bribe me?" "It's not bribery, it's family taking care of family." Mom cried out. "Melissa made mistakes, but prison isn't the answer." I hung up and forwarded the recording to the police. My department head sent me an email that evening. She had reviewed my proof and would authorize my readmission once the registrar reinstated the withdrawal. The investigator had fast-tracked the police report. Everything was falling into place, but I still had to tackle the mountain of missing coursework. Melissa's arrest happened the next morning. I didn't see it, but she supposedly tried to run and had to be tackled in the front yard. Within hours, her mugshot appeared online, mascara streaking down her cheeks and her face twisted with fury. My phone exploded with messages. Old high school classmates and distant relatives. Some people supported me, while others called me heartless. "She's your sister," they'd say, as if that explained everything. Then Ryan texted, Melissa's ex-boyfriend from the previous year. "I have information you need to see. Can we meet?" We met at a coffee shop near school. Ryan looked exhausted but determined as he pulled out his phone. "She used to brag about this stuff," he explained, showing me text after text. Melissa laughing about making me walk in foam slippers. Melissa explaining how she convinced our parents I was aggressive. Melissa sending him fake grade reports she'd photoshopped. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I tried telling your parents when we broke up, but they said I was just bitter." He forwarded everything to me. More evidence for the prosecutor. That evening, my parents arrived at my aunt's place. Dad pounded on the door as Mom cried out on the lawn. My aunt wouldn't let them in. "Open this door." Dad screamed. "She's our daughter." The neighbors called the cops. 2 officers arrived and issued my parents a trespassing notice. They had to leave or be arrested. I submitted everything to the registrar the next morning with 36 hours to spare. The woman who helped me earlier rushed it through the system. "You're officially re-enrolled," she announced, printing my confirmation. "Good luck with the coursework. 4 months of assignments in 2 weeks." I did the math. If I worked 18 hours a day, I might be able to make it. But first, Melissa posted bail. She immediately got online and posted old pictures of us as kids with long explanations about how her beloved sister had turned against her when she had a disability. She claimed I was jealous of the attention she received for her ADHD. She said I was the one who had been abusive and she had merely been trying to survive my campaign of terror. People who didn't know the truth started sharing her posts. Disability discrimination is real. Her sister is a monster. Then something unexpected happened. Dr. Lauren Harper, a renowned ADHD specialist, contacted me via my university email. "I've seen your sister's posts," she explained. "What she's describing isn't consistent with ADHD. I'm concerned about the stigma this is creating for actual ADHD patients. Would you be willing to let me examine her claims? Of course, it is pro bono. I shared the email with the lawyer, who loved the idea. Meanwhile, Elise had practically moved into her apartment's living room with me. We created a homework station with 2 laptops, a printer, and enough energy drinks to stock a convenience store. She took notes while I was writing papers. She coordinated research as I finished problem sets. 18 hours down, 6 to go, she'd say around midnight, forcing me to take breaks. My instructors had been understanding once they learned the facts. Some even extended deadlines for a few days. However, it was still brutal. My eyes burned and my fingers cramped. Citations and formulas entered my dreams. On day 10 of the homework marathon, just as I was about to collapse from exhaustion, Elise arrived with reinforcements. 3 peers from my program came to help. They had heard what happened and wanted to support me. Nobody should lose their education because of family abuse, one of them said. We worked shifts. Someone was always brewing coffee. Someone was always proofreading. When my brain felt like mush, someone was always available to guide me through the next project. By day 11, my head felt like it had been blended. But we were close. So close. The stack of finished assignments continued to grow, but the to-do list gradually shrank. That evening, at 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification as I was studying my last statistics problem set. Strangely, I hadn't touched social media in weeks. The message came from an account I didn't recognize. Butterfly Girl 2024. My blood ran cold as I read it. You think you won? I'll destroy you. Drop the charges, or I'll make what happened before look like nothing. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Remember, I know everything about you. Every password you've ever used, every secret you've ever told me. This isn't over. The typing pattern, the threats, and the mention of passwords. It was Melissa. She wasn't supposed to contact me at all. That was one of her bail terms. I took screenshots of everything and immediately gave them to the prosecutor. Within an hour, the detective had called. She violated her bail. We're picking her up now. Melissa went back to jail that night. This time, no bail. 2 days later, I turned in my final work with 24 hours to spare. Elise and I sat in her apartment, staring at the confirmation email from my former professor. 4 months of work completed in 14 days. You did it, Elise said. However, I was too weary to celebrate. I just wanted to sleep for a week. The following afternoon, my parents' lawyer contacted me. They'd hired someone expensive who wanted to meet to discuss resolving this family dispute without going to court. The lawyer accompanied me to the meeting. The expensive lawyer sat across from us in his posh office, trying to appear sympathetic. Your parents are prepared to make you whole, he said, sliding a check across the table. Full tuition reimbursement plus damages. In exchange, you will dismiss all allegations and sign this non-disclosure agreement. I looked at the check. $200,000. No, I replied. He blinked. Perhaps you don't understand. I understand perfectly. They want to buy their way out of accountability. 2 hours later, we arrived in court. My parents had sought a restraining order against me, claiming I was harassing them and jeopardizing Melissa's mental health. The judge read their petition with furrowed eyebrows. Then he reviewed our evidence, garage photos, motion sensor receipts, and a recording of them trying to bribe me. This restraining order is denied, he stated forcefully. And frankly, Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, you're lucky you're not facing charges for witness tampering. My parents left the courtroom without looking at me. The following afternoon, I received calls from all 3 credit card companies. The fraud department had completed their investigation. The debt would be discharged, but the damage to my credit score would linger for years. No apartment would rent to me. No auto loan, nothing. I have a spare room, Elise said when I told her. Seriously, my roommate just moved out. It's yours if you want it. Dr. Harper called 3 days later with the results of her evaluation. Melissa had undergone 6 hours of testing while in custody. Your sister shows no neurological signs of ADHD, she explained gently. However, she does display clear indicators of antisocial personality disorder. The symptoms, she added, feeling vibrations through walls, brain scrambling from footsteps, these are medically impossible. I'll testify to this. I thanked her before hanging up, feeling strangely empty. Part of me wished Melissa actually had something wrong, something that explained everything. But no, she was simply cruel. The next morning, I submitted my final makeup work with a day to spare. My GPA remained at 3.8. One of my professors even offered me a paid research position for the upcoming semester. "You've shown remarkable resilience," he told me. "I could use someone as determined as you on my team." Finally, some income. Credit cards in her name, Instagram party photos amidst sensory episodes, and parents offering bribes like they were auctioning on eBay. Melissa was playing bogus bingo and completing every square as her parents facilitated the entire circus. I agreed immediately. 1 week later, the prosecutor called. Melissa had been offered a plea agreement that included 2 years probation, community service, and full restitution if she admitted to fraud and identity theft. She refused. "The prosecution," she stated, "wants a trial and says she'll prove you drove her to it." "When?" "Next month. You'll need to testify." The news of a trial divided my extended family. My phone didn't stop ringing. "You're sending your own sister to prison," my uncle shouted over the phone. "She's sick and needs help, not jail," my cousin texted. Others, however, encouraged me. My mother's sister called to say she'd felt something was wrong for years. My father's brother agreed to testify about the Christmas dinner where Melissa laughed about having the entire family wrapped around her finger. I stopped taking calls from anyone other than my aunt and the legal team. Elise helped me prepare for my testimony. We'd sit in her living room as she played prosecutor, asking me the most difficult questions she could think of. "Why didn't you call the police when you were moved to the garage?" "I thought it was my fault, that I really was too loud." "Again," Elise replied, without apologizing for existing. We practiced for hours until I was able to tell my experience without shaking. 2 weeks before the trial, my parents tried again, this time through my aunt. "They're offering to pay for everything," my aunt explained, showing me the text. "Full college costs, therapy, a new car. They say Melissa is suicidal in jail." I contacted the prosecutor immediately. "This is witness tampering," she explained. "I'll handle it." My parents received an official warning from the judge. If they made another attempt, they would face prosecution. I started therapy the next week. The therapist specialized in family trauma and gaslighting victims. "You were systematically abused," she stated after our first session. The walking restrictions were just the visible part. This started much earlier. She wasn't wrong. Melissa, in retrospect, had controlled the family narrative for years. Every story became twisted. Every argument became my fault. I had been indoctrinated to distrust my own reality. "We'll work on recognizing manipulation," the doctor stated, "and setting boundaries that protect you." Melissa's public attorney filed a motion for my medical records a week before the trial, arguing that my mental health issues made me an untrustworthy witness. The judge only approved records from the specified time period. All they found was evidence of stress-related sleeplessness from sleeping in a garage. "Your medical records actually help our case," the prosecutor informed me. Ryan agreed to testify and brought a box of evidence I had no idea existed. Receipts showing Melissa shopping for designer bags on the same day I was moved to the garage, text messages in which she boasted about getting a free ride, and a video from a party in which she joked about forcing me to walk in foam slippers. "I kept everything after we broke up," he told me. "I knew someday people would need to know the truth." The day before the trial, I moved in with Elise. We spent the morning setting up my room, hanging pictures, and making it feel like home. After months of uncertainty, I finally had a safe haven. Melissa's friends drove by slowly that evening, taking photos of the apartment complex. Elise caught it all on her security camera. "Let them try something," she remarked. "We're ready." My mother sent me one final email that night, a long, rambling message about how I was damaging the family legacy, how she had failed as a mother, and how she knew something was wrong with Melissa but wanted to trust her. She never once apologized for making me sleep in a garage. Following the release of court records, the college newspaper published a report about the matter the following morning. My phone lit up with texts from students. "She cheated off me in biology. She stole my laptop and said I lost it. She told everyone I was stalking her when I caught her lying about being in the honor society." Melissa's falsehoods and manipulation had been documented numerous times. The prosecutor included them in her evidence file. Trial day dawned dark and drizzly. I dressed in my most professional attire and tried to keep my hands from shaking. Elise drove me to the courthouse. "You've got this," she said. "Just tell the truth." The first surprise came during jury selection. Melissa stood up and declared that she had fired her public defender. "I'll represent myself," she stated boldly. No one knows my story better than me. The judge looked at her over his glasses. Miss Coleman, I strongly advise against this. You're facing serious charges. I understand, Your Honor, but I know the truth better than any lawyer. The judge groaned and granted it. Day 2 of the trial. I took the stand. For 4 hours, I explained everything. The foam slippers, the carpet runners, the walking rules, and the garage. My voice remained steady as I detailed finding the withdrawal confirmation, locating the forwarded emails, and learning about the credit cards. Melissa kept interrupting. Objection. She's lying. Miss Coleman, you can't object to testimony. You'll have your chance to cross-examine. Melissa stood up when I mentioned finding out about her expulsion after 18 months of lying. You've ruined everything, she exclaimed. Everything was perfect until you had to dig around. The judge threatened to remove her from the courtroom. Then began Melissa's cross-examination. She approached me holding papers in her hands. Isn't it true that you walked loudly on purpose? No. But you admit you walked? Yes, I walked in my own home. Uh-huh. She looked at the jury as if she had won something. She admits it. The jury seemed perplexed. And isn't it true you were jealous of my academic success? You were expelled for plagiarism. I wasn't asking about that. She struggled through her questions for an hour, accidentally revealing that she had changed my passwords, forwarded my emails, and had only spent a portion of the tuition money. Elise testified next, displaying our text conversations on a large screen. The jury witnessed everything in real time, my confusion, desperation, and gradual realization of the truth. Ryan testified about Melissa's bragging, showing receipts and messages. Dr. Harper demonstrated in clinical detail why. Melissa's alleged symptoms were physically impossible and unrelated to any recognized neurological disorder. The evidence was overwhelming. On day 3, my parents took the stand. They tried to minimize everything, but the prosecutor presented receipts. Is this your credit card statement showing the purchase of motion sensors? Yes, but is this your receipt for the space heater for the garage? We wanted her to be comfortable in the garage next to gas cans. Dad finally admitted that he'd never witnessed Melissa experience a sensory episode. Mom admitted that she had never verified Melissa's enrollment status. Melissa took the stand on day 4 to defend herself. It was a disaster. She claimed I had been jealous since I was a child. She admitted to taking the money but claimed she earned it because of the trauma I had caused. Despite Dr. Harper's testimony, she insisted on the reality of her ADHD. She unintentionally confessed to credit card fraud while trying to explain it away. I only use them for necessities. Clothes are necessities. Trips are mental health care. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Melissa yelled that I was dead to her. My parents ignored me as the bailiffs escorted her away. I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I just felt empty. Elise drove me home silently. I looked out the window at people going about their daily lives. Drinking coffee, walking their dogs, talking about things other than fraud and family betrayal. The emptiness felt heavy on my chest, like a stone. You did the right thing, Elise said. Finally, when we drove into the apartment complex, I nodded, but the words seemed meaningless. Right and wrong seemed overly simplistic for what had just happened. For the next week, I went through the motions, went to school, started my research work, made dinner with Elise. But everything felt distant, as if I was watching someone else's life through foggy glass. The sentencing hearing was on a Thursday morning. I wore the same business attire, but this time my hands didn't shake. Melissa stood in an orange jumpsuit, her hair flat on her head, no makeup to cover the dark circles under her eyes. The judge considered the counts of fraud, identity theft, credit card fraud, and witness intimidation. Each count carried potential years. Miss Coleman, he said. Melissa, do you have anything to say before sentencing? She stood up straight. My sister destroyed our family out of jealousy. I needed that money for my medical treatment. She refused to accommodate my disability, and now she's sending me to prison for being sick. The judge's face didn't change. Miss Coleman, multiple experts have testified that you have no disability requiring accommodation. You stole over $75,000, including credit fraud. You attempted to destroy your sister's education and future. He sentenced her to 3 years in state prison with forced repayment of all stolen funds and damages. I hope you use this time to reflect on your choices, he told her. Melissa turned to look at me one final time. You destroyed this family, she stated simply. I hope you're happy. The bailiffs escorted her away. My parents had come this time and sat in the back row. Mom was crying silently. Dad's jaw was so tight I could see the muscles moving. They left without saying anything. The following morning, I went to the phone store with Elise. The clerk transferred my contacts as I watched my old phone number disappear from the screen. 10 years had passed, but it felt necessary, like closing a door. Melissa's accidental confessions while defending herself were mind-blowing. How did she think that declaring clothes were necessities and trips were mental health care would help her case? I blocked my parents on everything: email, social media, and LinkedIn. My aunt helped me file the restitution papers, emphasizing that it would take years to receive any actual money. Prison wages are about $1 an hour, she explained. But at least it's something. 2 weeks later, my aunt sent me a letter from my parents. They were selling their home to pay for Melissa's appeal lawyer and moving to Florida to start over. The letter condemned me for choosing revenge over family and promised to pray for my soul. I tossed it in the garbage without responding. My research job kept me busy. We were investigating memory formation in trauma victims. Ironically, given my situation, the work felt meaningful. Every data point, every analysis contributed to something that could help someone else. "You're one of my strongest research assistants," my professor said to me one afternoon. "Your attention to detail is exceptional." I wanted to tell him that was the result of years of documenting Melissa's lies, but instead I just said, "Thank you." The spring semester passed by in a whirlwind of coursework, research, and therapy appointments. The therapist helped me overcome the shame that lingered during peaceful moments. "Guilt is common among abuse victims," she explained. "You were trained to prioritize your sister's needs over your own safety. It takes time to unlearn that." Sometimes I'd wake up believing I heard footsteps above me, only to remember that I now lived on the top floor. My body was still primed for hypervigilance. Melissa's appeal was denied 2 months after she received her sentence. The evidence was too overwhelming. She was moved 3 hours away to a state women's correctional facility. Some of her old friends apologized for believing her lies about me. "We should have known," one wrote. "She lied about everything else, too." I forgave some of them but kept my distance. Trust was becoming increasingly difficult to earn. My therapist helped me prepare a victim impact statement for the restitution court. We worked on it for 3 sessions, meticulously detailing the financial and emotional consequences: the garage, the lost semester, credit destruction, and treatment bills. Melissa was ordered by the judge to pay a total of $100,000, which included the stolen tuition, credit card debt, and emotional distress damages. At prison rates, it would take decades. "It's not about the money," the therapist told me. "It's about accountability." The following week, a TV producer contacted me and expressed interest in making a documentary about sibling fraud and family betrayal. They promised a significant sum of money for my cooperation. "Your story could help other victims," the woman remarked. "No," I told her. "I need to move forward, not backward." She called 3 more times before giving up. May arrived, bringing final examinations and graduation preparations. Elise helped me pick out a cap and gown and insisted on taking photos despite the fact that I felt strange celebrating. "You earned this," she remarked. "Despite everything, you finished." My aunt and uncle attended graduation, as did Elise and Ryan. We had become friends during the trial. Trauma bonding, the therapist called it. They cheered as I walked across the platform, my honors cord waving with every step. The seats where my parents should have been remained empty. I tried to avoid looking at them. The next morning, I checked my inbox and found an acceptance letter from a graduate program across the country. Full scholarship, research assistantship, and a completely new start where no one knew my story. "Take it," Elise responded immediately. "You need this." I agreed that afternoon. 6 weeks later, my aunt called to share some news. My grandmother, my father's mother, had died. "The funeral is on Thursday," my aunt explained cautiously. "Your parents told everyone you're not welcome. They're saying you've joined a cult." "A cult?" I laughed, but it turned bitter. That was their narrative. Easier than explaining the truth. Melissa received supervised release to attend the funeral. My cousin emailed me photos. Her in a black dress with an ankle monitor, crying loudly at the burial while my parents hugged her. The extended family gathered around them as if nothing had happened. I stayed at home and looked over old photos of Grandma instead. She had always been polite to me, but distant. Now I wondered what stories my parents had told her about me over the years. The first restitution payout arrived a week later. $5,000 was a tiny portion of what was owed, but it was something. I used some for therapy, some for moving expenses, and the rest for savings. August came quickly. I packed up all I owned into a small trailer. Elise helped me load boxes while we both tried not to cry. "You'll visit," she said. "And I'll come see you, of course." But we both knew it would be different. The drive across the country took 4 days. I stopped at random motels, ate at truck stops, and watched the landscape transform from familiar to unfamiliar. With each mile, the weight on my chest gradually lifted. My new graduate school roommate frequently talked about her plant biology studies. The second week, she commented on how gently I walked. "It's like you're not even there sometimes," she remarked, laughing. I forced myself to walk normally after that. Each footstep became a quiet act of defiance against old habits. It took several months to feel normal again. The program was hard, but in a good way. Nobody knew about Melissa, the trial, or the garage. I was just another graduate student studying neuroscience, working late in the lab, and drinking too much coffee. 3 months into the semester, I received a letter forwarded from my aunt's address. Melissa's handwriting on the envelope caused my stomach to clench. Inside were 3 pages in Melissa's neat handwriting. She forgave me for betraying her. She recognized that others had manipulated me into testifying. She hoped that one day I would realize what I had done and come to see her so she could forgive me in person. She made no apologies or acknowledgments of her actions. During a late-night experiment, I burned it in the lab's Bunsen burner, watching the pages curl and blacken until there was just ash left. December brought another surprise. My parents sent me a Christmas card with a check for $1,000. "We'll always love you despite everything," they wrote. "Perhaps someday you'll realize family is more important than being right." I stared at the check for a long time. $1,000 would help with expenses, but accepting it felt like agreeing with their version of events. Instead, I donated it to a domestic abuse shelter and simply sent them the receipt. The spring semester began with me teaching undergraduate biology labs. Standing in front of 18-year-olds and describing mitosis and cell division was strange. Some were older than Melissa had been when she started telling lies. One girl stayed after class in March. She fidgeted with her notebook, avoiding eye contact. "My sister says I'm making her sick," she explained quietly. "She says my breathing is too loud when I study. My parents want me to move to the basement." My chest tightened. I recognized the expression in her eyes, bewilderment mixed with self-doubt. "That's not normal," I explained gently. "Breathing doesn't make people sick." She burst into tears. "But she has anxiety. The doctor said I should be supportive." I told her about gaslighting, emotional abuse, and documenting everything. I told her about the on-campus counseling center. "Someone believes me," she muttered. "I believe you." She left with her shoulders slightly straighter. I hoped she would be okay. That afternoon, I returned to my office with heavy, purposeful steps. My boots boomed through the hall. A coworker looked up, startled by the noise. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't hear you coming. You're usually so quiet." "Not anymore," I said. I walked loudly after that, allowing my footsteps to declare my presence, letting them resound and reverberate. Each stride was an assertion of my existence, that I had the right to occupy space and make noise in my own life. Thanks for listening along while I wondered about things with you. It's been quite the journey together. See you around, friends. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.